The Department of Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs in KwaZulu-Natal has issued a warning of possible floods in the area. This as heavy rains persist. The province has been experiencing natural disasters, with the April 2022 heavy rains being the deadliest. Let's find out more about which municipalities could be affected. We're joined now by Sibonelo Mngadi, Media Liaison Officer for KZN COGTA. Thank you very much, Mr. Mngadi. Can you tell us, there was a South African Weather Service warning, a notice issued on Sunday. We've seen heavy rains in large parts of the country today. What does the situation look like at the moment in KZN, and what's most concerning for you?
Okay, no, thanks very much. Yeah, indeed, we did receive a notice from the South African Weather Services as of yesterday in the evening, and then the rains are expected to pour in until the midnight today. So we've been monitoring the situation very closely across the province. So right now I'm in Newcastle, KwaZulu-Natal. So it has been raining here, but it's not as much until this point. And we are also happy that at this stage we haven't received any serious reported incident. So we're hoping that the situation will remain the same. But I would like to emphasize that we remain on high alert, particularly on the coastal towns like Reinkonyen in the KZN South Coast, Durban Metro, KwaDukuza and Stenga and the surrounding areas, because the rain are expected to pour in across to the far north in Dumbe municipality, that is Paul Petersburg. So we have all our disaster management centers and their teams on standby. They are ready to respond should be there any need. We also want the communities, especially those that are staying in the low-lying areas, to monitor the water levels very closely. But also our team will be doing that, so to ensure that should be there any need, people will have to be taken to safer areas. We've prepared schools, community halls, where people that can be taken to.
Do you know whether the rain is expected to persist past this evening? Initial notice issued on Sunday, perhaps the South African Weather Service has in the meantime given an update?
Yeah, well, according to the information we've received, the heavy rainfall is expected up until 11 p.m. tonight. However, we will continue to monitor the situation with the assistance from the South African Weather Services to ensure, because one of the worries is that, the rain sometimes gains momentum during the evening when people are asleep, and then you may wake up in the morning and then you find the situation is completely different from what we saw before this evening. But however, we will monitor this very close to ensure that even during the night, midnight, we monitor and then we get a report from time to time in terms of the water level, in terms of making sure that those that may be at risk are removed from those areas.
Residents in KZN were battered by those heavy rains and flooding last year. In some instances, repair work still has not been started. Many communities still trying to deal with service delivery issues related to that flooding, damaged infrastructure. And now I'm pretty sure many of them today must have been fearing the worst. What can KZN COGTA assure residents of KZN in terms of trying to not only catch up on repair works from last year's flooding, but to make sure that infrastructure is maintained in such a condition as to prevent unnecessary flooding?
Yeah, well, maybe it's important to note that even those victims from the 2021 flood have been moved to safer places, like they have decent accommodations so that they don't have to panic during these times. While the process may be lengthy in terms of getting them a permanent places or to rebuild their homes permanently, but however, the government has ensured that they are in the safe places. Should be there any flood again, they won't be affected. So they can be rest assured that plans are in place to ensure that everyone will be safe. Now I think we are more ready even to act before even the incidents took place, because one of the key priorities that this government has taken is to ensure that we don't lose life through the disasters like this, particularly because through the services from South African Weather Services, we can be able to plan prior and ensure that people are moved even before it gets flooded. So those are the plans that are in place to ensure that we don't find ourselves in a situation where people's houses have been flooded with them inside, and they can be at risk of losing their lives. So we are pretty sure that the situation is under control for now, and we're hoping that this rain will eventually stop and without any loss of life or any serious damages to the infrastructure. And also, the municipality have been at work, to ensure that the drains are open. If wherever there is a risk, they try to minimize it, because as a department of KZN COGTA, we've been trying to engage through our disaster management centers to ensure that the municipality are also compliant, or they try whatever in their powers to ensure that they minimize the impact should be there any heavy rain, but there is a minimum impact on that.
Experts are saying that climate change is going to result in more frequent and more serious natural disasters, such as the flooding we have seen. How is KZN COGTA doing impact studies, especially along the coastal regions that have been hardest hit, to try and discover how we can better equip communities, especially in rural areas, to try and deal with what is likely to come in the future?
Well, definitely, that's very true. I think those are the signs that we're indicating that the weather pattern is changing tremendously and is posing a serious threat to the human life. However, the department, I can say that there are programs to educate our people, particularly in rural areas. They also program where we install those tall steel so that we respond to the lightning disasters. But we also try and also working with the municipalities, to educate our people that they mustn't build where it's low lying. They must look at because remember, for quite a long time we had like drought. So some people saw other open spaces and then they built on them without realizing that actually it used to be a stream back then. So, but we try to educate our people, particularly in the urban cities like eThekwini in Durban, where you find that there's quite a number of people that are moving to the city, and then in that out of desperation, people will utilize any space that they see, but only to find out it is not suitable for building houses or informal settlement for that matter. So those are some of the programs that we're working on with the municipalities to educate our people when they deal with the land invasion, but also to indicate to people that building a house anywhere, it comes with a risk, because during these times you may lose your life, because you build a house in a low-lying areas or in a place that used to be a stream, and as this rain comes, you will show, because all the water will move toward that direction. So we're hoping that people will heed to our call, and the MEC for COGTA, Ms. Moloi, has been calling for people and communities to be extra cautious and also not to build in areas that are very low-lying and that can put their lives in danger.
Thank you so much for speaking to us. That was Sibonelo Mngadi, Media Liaison Officer for the KZN Department of Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs.